Oh, it is, man. That's why I'm not real big with.
That's why we're researchers. We keep on going. It's the resilience.
Exactly. Let's see. If
Welcome to the.
Now it won't even pull up.
Let it buffer for a second. Maybe it's old school. Let it buffer for a second.
Anyways, we're live.
Maybe if I share it directly to the group, you could save it from the group. That way you'll have that. You'll have that copy instead of like a. I'm sure it probably compresses in some format, just sending it to somebody. So I'll just send it to the group directly, and then you can just feel free to share it from there.
It says that we have a bad connection. All right, guys, we're just gonna go. Welcome again on another Friday night, Cryptid Wrangler Podcasts. We have Dr. Dennis. We're gonna have him on, and we're gonna straight to it. So here we go. You there, Dennis?
All right.
Your picture's not showing up. These guys are. Oh, there he is. Okay, these guys are killing me. So okay, so we're gonna have a kind of different night. We're all within our religions, and so I thought Dennis would be great to have on because he has the whole side of demonology. Bruce, you know all that stuff too. I've only skimmed it, so, but I can't believe this screen. Anyways, Dennis, tell us a bit about your podcasts. You've got a couple of them now.
Yeah, I've got about 5 at last count that I've been doing here lately. On my channel is called Hunting the Shadows, and I think on Monday mornings I have Monday Morning Monsters, which is about cryptids, and also another program called Legends of Folklore. And then on Wednesday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I have Hunting the Shadows. And then Friday nights, I have 2 alternating shows on that. Friday night at 8 o'clock p.m., I have Paranormal Point of View and The Road Less Traveled. And on Saturday night at 9 o'clock p.m., I've been doing a series of lectures on supernatural beings. And that is called Supernatural Spectrum.
Oh, cool. Wow.
I stay kind of busy.
Yeah, you do.
5 days a week, like easy me. Right there.
Yeah, no, that's tough. It's tough to just do this one. So, but tell us a little bit about yourself too and your background there, Dennis.
Well, I've been involved in the supernatural and paranormal for 60 plus years now. I'm not gonna say how old I am, but I'm getting pretty old. But I'm kind of like that. You might remember that country song. I was country before country was cool. I was paranormal before paranormal was cool.
Oh
yeah, go way back. And but my journey began probably when I was about. I don't know, can remember a time I wasn't interested in the supernatural, the paranormal, and all that. I was a monster kid when I was little. I watched all the old horror movies, and I remember my teachers used to get on to me about that, but I loved them. And as a matter of fact, in my next book, I'm working on a book called CRYPTIDS, Hunting Monsters and Things of Nightmare. And on the back of the book, I have a little thing of that says, when you're a child, you believe that monsters are real. Then you grow up to find out they really are.
Yeah.
That your parents lied to you. Your parents didn't. No such thing. Yeah, there is.
That's my childhood in the snap there. But anyway, when I was probably about 14 years old, I had my first actual, true, honest to goodness, paranormal experience where actually I saw 3 demons during a church service exit a man and go through a wall. And the only way I can describe them, they look like soccer-sized dirty balls of light. Dirty light. And I've seen them manifest since then in many other different forms, but that was the way I first saw them. And I was amazed by it, and then first of all, I tried to deny what I saw, I didn't see that. That's, real, But I had to finally, be honest with myself, said, yeah, I did see that. Now I need to know what it was I saw. So that kind of lit a fire under me to learn and understand what I had seen, and to find out, to really truly begin to explore the fact there's a lot more to this universe than what we do see. And matter of fact, that's what I wrote. One of the titles, one of the books I have, is called The Road Unseen. And I've been on that road my entire life. And that's why I became a doctor of metaphysics, to understand how things in this universe react, the unseen things react with the seen things around us, and vice versa. I think without a doubt, there's so much of this universe that God created that we cannot see with certain spiritual eyes sometimes. Although I think we get glimpses of it, definitely, from time to time, like I did at that point. But ever since then, and my journey has been through all aspects of the paranormal and the supernatural. As I said earlier, I don't want one slice of the pie, I want the whole pie. And so I got into not only, demonology, but spiritual research, earth mysteries, cryptozoology, which is one of my favorite. My first actual case when I was 14 years old was a werewolf sighting. And since then, over the years, I've hunted werewolves, I've hunted vampires, I've had experiences with a lot of supernatural creatures. I've met skinwalkers. I found out that the unseen is very real, and it can affect us. And here's the weird thing about it, guys. It's all connected. And somebody asked me not long ago, what is the connection? We are the connection to it in many aspects.
Gosh. Yeah, that's wow. That's a good way to come up. I mean, learn about them when you're a child and keep them away as you get older. So, yeah. So, I was curious with your demonology. Well, how'd you learn that? Was that just somehow you came across it?
Well, it took a lot of research, and back in the day, people didn't talk about stuff like we're doing now. This was just something. If you said very much about this, they were ready to put you in a rubber room somewhere. I like it nowadays that we've got all this so open and we can discuss it. But back in the day, you didn't, so you had to do your own research, and we didn't have computers at that time like we do now. Now you have the libraries of the world at your fingertips. We'd have had something like this back then, I would have really, really got into that. But I had to do a lot of research, a lot of long, lonely hours in the reference rooms of libraries. And there were a couple of what I would call my own mentors, of course, Ed and Lorraine, which I met one time, very nice lady. And there was like Hans Holzer. There were certain people that were putting out stuff but it was very low key. You didn't, you had to really, really do deep investigative research to learn about these things. And when I wanted to start learning about demonology, of course, I wanted to take it from a Christian, being a Christian myself, and wanted to take it from a Christian perspective on it. The number one place you learn about all that, of course, is the Bible. Jesus was the first demonologist, you might say. And that was one type of way, but there were other sources of knowledge I had to go to as well to try to learn the things I wanted to learn, the knowledge I wanted to accumulate. I also went to, I'm a retired police officer as well. But before I ever got into that, I actually went to the police. I went to insurance investigators to learn professionals investigating. So I was self-taught in all of this stuff. You couldn't actually go somewhere and say, "Hey, teach me this." You had to self-teach yourself. Yeah.
Bruce is law enforcement too.
I was a cop for about 5 years, but that was sort of a second career. I was also employed for 30 some odd years at a local hospital here. And I was in several different departments of that. Even worked in the morgue for a while, and I can tell you some interesting stories about that. But
I've done that too.
I got a lot of experience. I'll tell you what, and I'll tell people this to this day: the greatest teacher of all. You can read all the books you want, get all the degrees you want, But the greatest teacher is experience. You have to get out in the field, and that's what I've been. I get some of these younger people mad at me nowadays. I say, well, heck, before you were in diapers, before you were a gleam in your daddy's eye, I was out there in the woods investigating this stuff.
Yeah.
That's how far back I go. And
Yeah.
and you can, I can say this, and it's not an egotistical thing for me to say, because I'm not about ego. But let me say this: if no matter where you go in the paranormal and supernatural, you can bank on one thing: I've already been there.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, Bruce is law enforcement too. Bruce, how long were you on law enforcement? Or yeah, I guess you probably still are, huh?
Well, let's put it this way: I've been in it since I was 17 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, I had several experiences when I was in law enforcement connected to some supernatural and paranormal type things. I know we had one case where it was an old cotton mill, very close to where I live, actually. And we were called there one night by the guard. There was a guard there, and it was closed down. It wasn't working at that time. And he said that there had been some activity in the basement, somebody messing around the basement. So I went down there, and I had a rookie cop with me, and he was younger guy. And there was a basement. This was like something out of a horror movie. I never had been in this mill. Been outside it all my life, but never been in it. But there was a sub basement under the basement. And this was that one instance. I said when I got to that sub basement and opened it up, we were looking around. We had our flashlights, and like I say, it looked like some place that Freddy Krueger would live. Okay, it looked like his domain a little bit. It was really freaky, old pipes and all this stuff, And there was another door down, so I opened that up, and immediately the moment I opened that door, I felt an intense barrier of evil, like. And I never had actually experienced anything quite like that. I felt it before in many instances, but not that strong. And I looked in the room, and what I saw is what got me. And then the cop with me, he didn't know about any of this stuff. When I saw exactly what I saw, which was a large pentagram on the floor, and it looked like it was what we call a blood pentagram. It was done with, I won't get into the details on it, but you use blood as a sort of a sacrificial type thing to raise demons. And this was a demon raising circle. The moment I saw it, I knew exactly, knowing what I know about the occult, and I've studied that all my life as well. I knew this was not an amateur thing. This is the real thing.
Yeah.
And somebody knew what they were really doing with this. And it was a pentagram with the signals in it and all that to raise a demon. Now, when you raise a demon in this kind of stuff, the pentagram is your protection, and the demon's on the outside. If you break that pentagram, that circle, in some way or another, you're in bad trouble. And this circle had been broken, and I could see blood on the walls. Whether it was human blood or animal blood, that I can't tell you. But I knew when I looked in this, room, that something very, very bad had taken place in there. And that's when I told the other cop with me, said, "What you see?" And I said, I knew he wouldn't know what he was looking at anyway. I just said, it's never mind. It doesn't matter, So I went back when we looked around some more, and then couldn't see anything else, couldn't find any bodies or anything like that. So I went back and told the guard, I said, if they come back messing around, call us again, we'll come back, But I said, I don't think they're going to be coming back.
Yeah. Wow. Bruce, have you had any of those supernatural? I think you had mentioned a couple to me. That
yes,
yeah,
I've had tons of them. Cemetery calls to where I had conversations with ghosts. From orbs floating down the road in the middle of nowhere to get out to help a woman in white who's running down the road. Obviously, she's in distress, only to catch up with her, and then she disappear into a globe and float off. I've had call-ins to where I went into people's homes with someone being in the house, and after searching the house, not finding anything, and then sitting at the kitchen table, and this elderly lady trying to convince me there was somebody there. Then I had a chair to slide out by itself and heavy footsteps going through the house and out the back door, slams the back door, about tears it off the hinges, but there's no one there. So that's all supernatural.
Yeah.
I've held people in car wrecks, bad accidents, whether it be vehicles, tractors, and stuff. I've held them in my arms as they died, and then I could feel when the spirit left the body, it would push me back.
Really?
So I've witnessed quite a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact I've had 3 people die in my arms when I was a paramedic in South Central, and I didn't feel that pushback, but I would have preferred it because it
Yeah. Well,
gets to you.
the things that bothers me the most is that what you're sitting there telling them they're not going to die, and you're waiting on help to get there, and so you've got them up in your holding them, sitting down on the ground with them, holding them, or if it's inside of a wrecked vehicle, you were inside that vehicle, holding them and talking to them and telling them, help's on the way, and they're trying to show you photos of their kids and stuff because they want you to tell them how much they love them and stuff because they say they're dying, and you're sitting there saying, no, you're not dying, you're going to make it. Just hang on a little bit longer. I can hear the ambulance sirens coming, and then have them just pass away and be holding them. And then you'll feel that. And then when you try to do CPR, if you're in a position to, sometimes you can't because you're in tight quarters. When you try to do CPR, you'll feel a push back on you as the spirit leaves the body.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Yeah. No, I've had a couple of those. One of them I prayed with them. They weren't very religious, but they were knowing what was coming. So, and then I had a woman that we delivered her baby, and she just was gone 5 minutes afterwards. And yeah, so, and that's hard. That's where your PTSD really kicks you.
Right.
Yeah.
Because it's hard because on them when they're dying because of in a traumatic situation like an accident, whether it be a vehicle or anything else, it's an unexpected quick death. And so they hang on with everything they got, but when they do pass away, the spirit will give you a push back if you're holding them to let you know to let them go.
Dennis, have you had any of those?
Oh yeah, quite a many, and a good many. And I'm just thinking, as a cop, you see people a lot of times in their worst situations, the worst side of them, and you see them. They get in and have alterations, they have fights, and you have your suicide too. I see that a lot as well. And unfortunately, there are a lot of suicides with ex-cops because of the very emotional things that they have to go through, the things they see and experience with these things, and having worked also at a hospital, and that's one of the most haunted places you can ever go to. I've had a lot of experiences like that at the hospital. Matter of fact, we had one incident where a haunted ambulance, and I had a known reputation in the hospital for paranormal stuff. So they came, some ambulance drivers one day came to me and said, we got a problem. There's something in our ambulance, messing around with stuff. And I said, well, what do you think it is? You think it's somebody passed away in one of your ambulance? They said, no, what we think it is, we think it's an ambulance driver. He got killed off duty. He died in an automobile accident. And he said, we think he's still coming back to the ambulance, moving stuff around, and because he had a certain way of storing the equipment on the ambulance and all that. And I think the guy's name was Henry. I think his name was Henry, something like that. Anyway, and I said, well, that's very interesting. So, but I couldn't, actually do a full blown investigation on the ambulance because it was in use, But I said, one evening I went out there. I said, well, let's try this, okay. So I went out there and I sat down and he was the driver. So I sat down on the driver's side and I called his name. I said, Henry, Henry, I said, I want you to know you don't have to stay here anymore. You don't, it's time for you to move on where you need to go. Your last call is gone. Your last call's over, and you fought your best fight. It's time for you to move on. Go to the light. Go to where you need to go, but you don't need to stay here anymore. Your time's over. And after that, they never had any more problem.
Sometimes that's all it takes is just a reminder, that.
Well, they used to call that years ago. We used to call that a soul rescue, where you actually, there may be instances. Well, I think being a Christian, I go along with what the Bible says. To be absent from the body is to be present with Christ, to a certain extent. But sometimes, if you're not Christian, where do you go? There's a lot of conjecture about that, But I think sometimes, I don't think you hang around for hundreds of years. But I think sometimes there may be a certain lingering period. The ancient Jewish people believed you stayed around for 3 days after you died before you went on. But I think there may be instances there's some kind of confusion, like or something holding people back. I had another case where, and this was really freaky. This woman owned a farm, and she inherited the farm from her mother and father, and her father had passed away out in this field. He got trapped under a tractor overturned on him. And he spent his last moments evidently trying to get out from under that tractor and go across that field home, And they would actually had seen him in that field several times after this happened, after years later. And the interesting thing that was some of this woman's grandchildren talked about a man out in the field. So we see this man every now and then. Well, she didn't know, exactly didn't think about it, being her father they were talking about. And one day she was going through some other photographs, and one of the kids was there when he said, "Who is that man?" And she said, "Oh, that's your grandfather. My daddy, that's your grandfather." She said, "That's the man out in the field."
Wow.
And so she told me this, and I said, "Well, that does not sound good." I said, "Let me walk out to that field." And I went out there with her. It was almost dark. We walked out to the edge of the field, and I called his name, And I said, "Look, I know you're trying to come home, but everything's okay now. You don't. Your time's over, and you need to go where you need to go. You need to go." But I called his wife's name. She had passed away. I said, "You need to go find her. You need to go because you don't need to come home now. Everything's fine. Everything's taken care of." And they never saw him again after that in the field.
Just that little notification. And that was one of the things that I had thought of for a long time too. Was
well, that was his last act on earth. That was the last thing holding him back, thinking, "I got to get home. I got to get home."
Yeah.
So we could be sometimes in certain circumstances, it's that bind the tie that binds us to a certain thing, some unfinished business, you might say, in a way,
Yeah. Have you guys seen that picture where a chopper came in, one of the life flights came in, and it landed, and they put the guy into the helicopter, and then he passed away in the helicopter, and you could see a stream of light coming from the helicopter straight into the sky.
Like
that
he's
is
being
amazing
delivered
picture.
like straight to heaven. That's awesome.
Yeah. I was looking for it just now to post it, but I can't see it. But yeah, you had some of those, Scott.
I've had a lot of nurses tell me in the hospital they've actually seen that happen.
Wow.
There was one old nurse. She'd been there for many years. She knew somebody was about to pass away. She would go open the window.
Wow.
So she said that she had seen them leave through the window. She's seen them go out, the spirits leave the window. So she would go open the window. And she told it, and the nurses she trained, she would tell them that. Said, if somebody's about to die, make sure you got a window open in the room.
Wow. Scott, you had any of those?
What, spiritual experiences?
Yeah, well, like
I got kind of a funny one actually. If you want me to share it. All right.
Sure.
Back in the 90s, there was this video game, and you probably remember it was GoldenEye on the N64, where you were James Bond. It was like a first-person shooter. Well, when I was a kid, me and my dad used to play that, and he could never beat the first level of the game, and it was all you had to do was like run through and jump off the bridge. Well, I was talking to my fiance about it one day, and I was playing the game, and I was telling her about how my dad could never beat it, and he passed away in January of 2025. And this was after that. And I'm telling her all about how I was talking crap, how he couldn't beat the level. And all of a sudden the controller died. And I died right there in that level. And I couldn't find any batteries. And that was like the first time ever I died in that level. And I'm like, okay, he's pranking me from the other side.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, Dad, I heard you. Sorry, I'll stop.
Yeah, exactly. And Larry's gonna come in and out. He's having storms over by his place too, so that's where he's gone.
It's kind of wonky here, so if I go out, I apologize in advance.
It's not very good here either, and it's probably 70 still outside.
Dude, the smoke from the Canada and Minnesota and even Michigan wildfires, it's affecting everything here. They're shutting stuff down and everything.
Really? Oh man.
Yep.
Jeez, yeah. Hey, Larry, you had any spiritual experiences?
Yeah. Years ago, when me and my first wife shared a duplex together as an older home, somebody big Victorian style home, but they split in half and made a duplex out of it. Me and her both had one where we seen a woman dressed in white, and we had a big walk-in closet. It had its own separate door, but it's like a see-through, something like lattice, but plastic and close together. But it had a light on, the old style manual light, wretched up and pulled on the chain. We were laying in bed one night, and all of a sudden the closet light came on. It was probably about the first week we spent there. And then she seen the woman walk through the closet door and it past our bedroom and into the living room. And she said, "Did you see that?" And I said, "I seen part of it, but we seen it a few times." And probably about 6 months later, we moved out.
Yeah. It's funny how that happens and you're out of there. So
we were waiting on our house to close on a house that we had bought. So we signed just like a 6-month lease on an apartment till the house was done and ready to move in. So we're moving out anyway, but that just helped us along a little quicker.
Yeah, that's right. You set a fire.
It's funny how that works. Yeah. So, Dennis, tell us a little bit more about all the things that you studied. We had talked about it before, but I think it'd be pretty interesting for the chat to see that too.
Yeah, well, a lot of people ask me about some of the vampire cases I've had. Vampires are real. Yeah, very real. Matter of fact, they are. Some of them are demonic type spirits that are vampire spirits. And then you have what I call living vampires. You have the undead type vampires, and then you have living vampires. And it's not what Hollywood, we have to forget about Hollywood. The filter, the lens that Hollywood puts on us is very perpendicular to what real folklore tells us about these things. That's why matter of fact, I'm a member of the American Folklore Society. And folklore is very beneficial for the fact that, it gives you clues and certain things you can look at from a different perspective. It's a very cultural thing. And when you come to vampires, there's a lot of that. But vampires, werewolves, things like that are real. They do exist, and they do exist sometimes in our physical reality, other than the spiritual reality itself. And there are things that manifest from the spiritual into the physical. And when they do that, they are extremely dangerous to you, because now they can affect you not only spiritually but physically as well. And the vampire is one of that. And there are different types of vampires, just like there are different types of werewolves. And like there's a big difference between dogman and the werewolf. A dog man is dog man, 24/7. Werewolf could be your next door neighbor, could be the guy that bags your groceries and when at Publix or whatever, you never know about that. And so can vampires be. You have human vampires, and you have inhuman type vampires, and the inhuman vampires mostly are not someone coming back from the dead to suck your blood out. Most of the time, they are reanimated corpses, reanimated by demonic spirits. These are the ones that you have to actually, Hollywood tells you got to drive with a traditional stake in their heart, and that's the end of it. That's not how you really get rid of the true vampires. You have to, the stake is just one part of it. The stake is what drives them or holds them to the ground while you decapitate them. Matter of fact, we always say it's the application of decapitation, then the immolation of fire. In other words, you stake them, you cut their head off, and then you burn them to ashes. That's the only way you can take care of them. Werewolf is the same way. You do a werewolf the same way, although you can take it down, of course, with a silver bullet, but that's not really what does it. The stake that you use, the sword or knife that you use, the silver bullet you use, whether it's against a vampire or werewolf, has to be blessed. That's where the real true power of it all. You could kill a werewolf with a regular bullet as long as that bullet's blessed. And I'll tell you something that I used to do when I was a cop. I would have my bullets in my gun blessed, just in case. They had to shoot very true for a good reason, supposedly. But this is how you supposedly take care of these inhuman type things. Now, a werewolf is most of the time a human being that's a witch. Basically, a lot of times you hear that skinwalker thing thrown around a lot. That is a American indigenous witch. Okay. But then you have the witches, like the witches of the Appalachians or the European witches. They are shapeshifters too. They can turn into things just like the skinwalkers do. Matter of fact, I ran into two skinwalker sisters, Cherokee skinwalker sisters, one time in the mountains of North Carolina. Freaky incident. And these things are real. They have this demonic power that they're hooked into. They are deep into the darkness, and I mean the spiritual darkness of this world. And it's what empowers them to do these things. If we were witches, we could sit around all day wishing somebody to die. It doesn't mean that's going to happen. By the sheer power of our own willpower, we have to hook up to a demonic power to get things done. It's just like what you plug your toaster into, or your hair dryer into. You got to plug it into electricity to power it. That's what they do. They plug into the demonic, the evil darkness thing, and they have sold their souls, their humanity to that. And here's something really freaky to think about when it comes to werewolves, which is one of my favorite cryptids. The werewolf, the true blown 100% werewolf that puts on the belt, the pelt, or whatever it is, they do the rituals. They do these horrific things to bring about this manifestation of change in them, to become this terrible apex killer. And let me say this about the werewolf, okay? The big difference between a werewolf and dogman, you may walk away from a dogman sighting, but I guarantee you most of the time, you won't walk away from a werewolf sighting, because a werewolf is the apex killer. He is a psychotic killer. He will tear you into pieces and then eat you just for fun and spit you out. That's just the way he works. He is very malevolent. He gets on your trail. He will not stop till he finds you. This is why some witches and warlocks actually use real werewolves for assassins, because they are the ultimate assassin. I wouldn't want one on my trail. Matter of fact, I think I saw a werewolf one time. And the only reason I'm here to tell you that is because he didn't see me. Wow. If they ever see you, they're not going to turn you loose. And vampires are the same way. And there are human vampires, there are inhuman vampires, there are human beings who want to become vampires and surrender to the darkness that way too. They become real true vampires. And they may live off, most of them don't live off of blood. They live off of some kind of psychic-like energy. They draw energy from people and things. These are the psychic type vampires. They are human, though. I wouldn't say go around decapitating them because they are human. The real vampire that I mentioned earlier, if you kill it to cut its head off, it's already dead. It's not a living
Yes.
person. You know, I don't recommend going around killing living persons in certain situations. But you got to understand there's so many different kind of these things. You got to understand what it is you're dealing with. That's what you better know for sure.
Bruce, you had any experiences with werewolves or vampires?
No, I haven't had any that those I'd want to talk about.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Larry, you got
I
any?
dated a few myself that, you know, a few women I had my doubts about. But
Same thing.
usually, a lot of times, these people are witches, though. That's what they basically are. They are witches or warlocks, as the case may be. And they use this power for certain things, and it gives them not only just what I call satanic like power, but it also, you know, I talked to a guy one time that said he was a 200-year-old werewolf. And I asked him, you know, I said, well, does this make you immortal? You know, you're 200 years old. He said, no. He said, really, I don't know how long you live, but only smart werewolves live long, 200 years. You know, in other words, if you're a dumb werewolf, they will find you eventually and do away with you. Same thing with vampires. There are real vampire hunters and werewolf hunters out there. I've run into. Let me tell you a quick story. Down in Charleston, South Carolina, one time I was investigating a place that supposedly had two vampire sisters that lived there. And I went to see the place. Of course, I didn't think that it was still there. It's a long story. I'll tell you about it sometime. But anyway, outside on the wall, I found a very unusual mark. It was only maybe about 6 or 7 inches big. It was a red V with a red X through it. I said, well, what the heck is that? I never had seen that before. I've, you know, studied a lot about occult symbols and stuff, you know. And I finally, after some very intensive research, I found out what it was. It's a vampire hunter's mark. And it means there are no vampires here.
Really? Jeez. Missed that in the movies. They don't even have that. It's cool.
Yeah.
How about you, Larry? Vampires,
I've read
werewolves,
somewhere that there are actual vampires still in New Orleans.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Real life vampires.
Yeah. How about you, Scott? Anything?
Every large city, you have vampire societies, which are people playing around being vampires. But then you have the real deal. You have actual vampire cults. You have satanic cults. You have witch cults. You have werewolf cults. You have vampire cults. And these guys are real. I mean, they're doing the real thing. They've surrendered completely to the spiritual darkness in this world. And and you may see some famous actors that do that. You may know some famous sports. You know, people that it run, and politicians, just in every different aspect, they sell their souls, their humanity for this stuff, and not just to live longer, but to give them power, to give them the money they want, whatever they trade. And here's the interesting thing about the werewolf. Okay, now I have to wonder about this when it comes to dog men. And here's something you can think about tonight when you're going drifting off to sleep.
Yeah.
According to legend, you can only turn into a werewolf so many times, and eventually you're stuck in the werewolf mode. Your humanity is gone. You are now the beast 100% for good. Are some of those dog men out there former werewolves that are now werewolves forever? They can't change back.
Wow. Yeah, that'd be scary, huh? I wonder if people take into consideration that when you sell your soul, where you've agreed to go. You know what I mean? If they're so in tune with demons and whatnot, I wonder why somebody doesn't say, you know, do you realize what you just committed to? You know, because you always see something, you know, movie stars and stuff, they're doing that too. But yeah, really, really weird stuff. But I know that Bohemian Garden, I think it's called. They've got that big owl out front, and they have all the people that are going in for. I'm not sure if they even use it anymore, but it was a cult basically, and it was for movie stars, singers, anybody that sells himself.
that owl is a symbol of Athena, the goddess of
Oh, yeah.
wisdom, hidden wisdom. It's an occult symbol. But I think you got to wonder, if they're really serious or just a bunch of rich guys doing this kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? You got to wonder, because it's so secretive. A lot of people don't know. I've seen people try to get into Bohemian Grove and they can't because it's,
Grove, that's right.
watched 24/7 by a very intense security team. They have cameras and all everywhere, but they've got the money. They can do that.
Exactly. Cameras alone, they're pretty expensive. Wow. So tell us some more about the owl, Athena. I'm not sure that many people know about
you will
that.
find, as a matter of fact, you will find, because I have to show you, it's kind of hard to find. There's supposed to be an owl on the $1 bill, and it's a secret symbol. There's a lot of secret symbolism on our money, and we don't know it. Especially like the pyramid with the eye. That is actually, the eye of Satan, supposedly, that watches all
really?
things. Anyway, the owl is a symbol of sort of occultic. That's what the word occult means. It means forbidden, hidden knowledge. And there's a lot of symbolism in that. And they have their own language. And you will be surprised how much this symbolism shows up. Just take, for instance, the catus. That symbol that's on the side of the ambulance, the snake with the, going up the staff, that comes from Greek mythology. Okay. But there's another symbol that's like that. It's two wings with a snake going up. I know you've seen that. That's a very big occultic symbol. And all of this stuff is a secret language they use. They connect with each other this way. They mark their territory. They're like animals. Like your dog goes out in the yard, he marks his territory. They mark their territory in other different ways with blood symbols, signals. And like I said, that pentagram I ran into, I knew what it was. It was the real thing because of the kind of signals that it had on it, the symbols, the signs on it that you do to actually raise demons. Now, most of the time when you raise demons, you're looking to have what we call a demon familiar. He's hooking up with you to have that power. But also, when you talk about Athena, she is also connected to Hecate, the goddess of witches. Her symbol is an owl as well, and a wolf too, for that matter. But the owl's another symbol, still showing that wisdom that even the ancient people thought the owl symbolized. That's where we get that from. Symbolizes wisdom or hidden, forbidden knowledge. And that's a big witchcraft thing, without a doubt. And you see something like that at Bohemian Grove, you got to wonder, somebody did their research, definitely, to know what they were doing. And if it's the real deal, and I kind of suspect it is, what are they really doing out there? Are they manipulating the politics of this world or what? I wonder.
It's funny. Michigan Sandman brought it to my attention when he was talking about the Supernatural show, and my wife would watch it, and I had heard that they actually use real spells in that show. And
some of them are. Some of them are signals that they use. I was a fan of that show too. Whoever the writer was, he was doing his research very well. And a lot of it was Hollywoodized, though, and that's the way Hollywood works. That's why I say we got to, kind of look past Hollywood a little bit sometimes. Especially when it comes to vampires and werewolves, definitely, and witches. But, there were certain signals they used, certain what we call demon traps, things like that. They come out of the grimoires, the grimoires like the Lesser Key of Solomon and the Necromonicon that they talk about, and all these different things that supposedly connect with the old gods. And by the way, the old gods are really just fallen angels masquerading as God. We'll have to talk about that sometime because that's a fascinating thing. It ties into the Nephilim and all that. But anyway, they did this with their different symbols and signals. So, every demon has his own signal, has his own symbol. And people in demonology that they knew these grimoires, they knew the grimoires very well. And like the Lesser Key of Solomon, they actually are things in there that will teach you how to raise demons or how to connect or contact demons. and supposedly angels too, as well, which is not a good idea to do either. But that's like a lot of people you hear nowadays. They will say, "Oh, my spirit guide tells me this. My spirit guide tells me that." Who is their spirit guide? I talked to a psychic lady one time. I said, "Who is your spirit guide?"
Yeah.
She said, "Well, it's my spirit guide." I said, "Well, who told you that?" She said, "My spirit guide did." I said, "Well, your spirit guide could be anything, don't you?"
Yeah, exactly. I
Yeah.
was thinking the same thing.
So
Gosh.
they're connecting. They're playing around with stuff. They're playing with darkness. They don't really realize sometimes what they're doing, but some of them do. They know what they're doing. When you sell your soul, and you can really sell your soul, when you lose your humanity, your soul is gone. You are a lost soul, as the old saying goes. If you've got too much of the darkness in you, the only way you don't really say, "Here's my soul. How much you gonna give me for that?" You don't do that. What you do is you say, "I will give you my soul in exchange for what you will give me." In other words, I will surrender everything to the darkness and become the darkness. That's how you lose your soul.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was wondering, because I mean, a demon could look like anything. It could look like your grandmother, and you're messing with
seen
the
them.
wrong stuff.
I've seen demons actually look like little children.
Oh,
Yeah.
that would scare
I had a
me.
woman come to me one time. Had a woman come to me. She had been through some stuff. Her husband, and she'd lost her husband recently and all that. And she told me, she said, "I see Jesus walking in my garden sometimes."
Wow.
I said, "Well, ma'am, that's not Jesus. Okay, that's not
No,
Jesus
he's
walking
not
in your
come
garden.
back yet.
Jesus is coming back one day, but that's not him in the garden." Okay.
Yeah, he's not going to show up in a
And,
garden.
yeah.
Well, he
So
might.
sometimes these demons can take on any form. They can look like animals. They can look like people that you know. They can look like famous people. Uh, I get a lot of people get mad at me for saying what I'm about to say here. Okay, but I have to say, I try to be honest about these things.
Sure.
Ghosts are real. Ghosts are really real. They're demons. That's what they are. Most of the time, and I've had people come to me, "So where can I go find demons? I want to talk about demons. I want to go find some demons." I said, "Well, go to the graveyard. That's what's out there. It's not people
the
that's
Bible.
dead. It's demons. They haunt graveyards. They haunt battlefields. They haunt hospitals. They haunt places of trauma and pain and suffering. That's where they're at. They're in their home territory." Mm-hmm.
That's realistic. Bruce, you had said that too, right? That there
Oh,
was
yeah.
that you had seen. Gosh, what was it? I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since we talked about it. Gosh, now I forgot what it was.
No, I've seen glowing headstones. I've talked to spirits in the cemetery, but it wasn't a bad spirit. I mean, it was a character. But I haven't run into, knock on wood, any bad spirits yet. We was talking about that dollar bill a minute ago. If you look on the back of that dollar bill, it's on every dollar bill, you'll find a hitchhiker. A lot of people don't know that on that dollar bill is a hitchhiker.
Really?
Yeah.
What's that stand for, Bruce?
Well, if he's not there, he caught a ride.
He only went to the higher bills.
Right. But no, I've encountered quite a few supernatural things. I know there's bad things out there, but luckily, I've been blessed not to have bad dealings. So I try to keep a positive mind on that.
Oh, it was the burial mounds and the spirits, or basically, I think it was the dogmen that guard those mounds for.
Yes. But when you get into burial mounds, you get into sacred places to where medicine women or men or will put spells upon the land. And then when you go in there and destroy that land, you can bring some bad things out. I tracked what I thought was a dog man off of one of them going across a hill, and then it ended up being not a dog man, but a supernatural being that come up. It had wings on it. Everything about it looked like a dog man, except the wings and the face looked more like a bat. When it flew across the top of me, it went into a barn, and I didn't go in after it. So,
No. Yeah, that would, yeah, that's scary.
That sounds
But
a lot like
I've heard
Moth.
that.
Sounds a lot like
What?
Mothman. Mothman, I think I've investigated up in West Virginia a lot on that. Mothman, I think, sounds very much like a demon. It is a well-known fact that a lot of the indigenous peoples could call up these things from the darkness. To curse, they would have cursed spots or cursed land, especially when they lost a lot of their land. They would curse these lands, and especially in their burial grounds, would have a guardian like over them.
well, here in
Oh, yeah.
here in Tennessee, TVA come in and forced a lot of families generations off of their lands. So you've got to look at that too. How many people who only had 3 days to leave their farms and stuff, and then the marshals and the soldiers come in and removed them, would curse the land. In other words, not the land itself, but anybody that tried to do anything with their land, they wish bad luck upon them. So you'll run into a lot of that. You'll run into a lot of cursed, what we call cursed land, because land itself's not cursed. It's the people that's coming there, because these people were forced out. You know, you got generations that cleared this wilderness, built homesteads, raised their children there and their crops and stuff, and basically worked their fingers to the bone, and eminent domain comes in and takes it away from them, and they don't really get anything in return. Especially the ones that refuse to leave got nothing but sat out in the street. You know, took into a town somewhere and sat out in the street to fend for themselves. So then you have a lot of, well, somebody moves into my house or somebody does something with my land, I wish this would happen to them and stuff. And a lot of those people were simple, hardworking people, and could conjure up this stuff just by their beliefs and their Christian beliefs. You know, they just wanted to be left alone. They didn't want anybody to bother them. They didn't bother anybody else. But, you know, when they said, you know, I hope whatever they do with this land, this happens to them. You know, there's a lot of that goes on.
And you know,
That's
a
like
lot of
Yale
the old farmers, they had the hex signs on their barns, and they would bury witch jars and make witch marks on their houses to keep away these bad, evil spirits, supposedly, that were attached to the land. And a lot of these farmers were, you know, had a lot of indigenous blood in them. So they were very close to the land, especially like the Irish and Scottish peoples that settled a lot into the Appalachian Mountains. They brought a lot of their beliefs with them, and a lot of their magic, supposedly land magic that they knew, and the dark things that they talked about, like the banshees and all that, the leprechauns. All this stuff followed them from the old world to the new world.
Well, what were you saying about your thoughts on the Nephilim again, Dennis? I know there's a lot of people that have asked a couple times just recently on that. What's your thoughts?
Well, when you look at, you know, what the Bible says and all that, which is the main authority on this, there's definitely a lot of clues. I think the darkness that is inhabited this world is following an age-old plan that they're still trying to institute. When they lost the war in heaven and got cast out, they decided that if we can't take the throne of God, we will mess up what God has created. We will try to take his creations from him. And I think that's the plan that's still going to this day. That's going to be our future, as a matter of fact. And I think AI ties into this. A lot of different things do. And these are just the tools they use. But they, of course, supposedly gave mankind a trade-off. You know, they showed us how to kill each other, how to make weapons of war, dark alchemy, witchcraft, all this stuff. They gave these gifts to, if you want to call them gifts, I call them curses, but they did this to us. Yeah, because they didn't love us. No, they wanted to destroy us. That's the main the main focus of this plan. And the Nephilim were part of that. They were messing up the creation of God. And that is why the demons that we talk about today are really the spirits of these Nephilim, because they have no place in heaven, and hell was not made for them. They're stuck on this world as spirits. That's why I say there are real ghosts. They're demons. And most of the times, by the way, I tell people that what demons do is a lot of theatrical. They try to intimidate you. They try to scare you. They try to shake you. If you don't fall for that stuff, then you got a leg up in the saddle over them, okay? Because that's the way they operate. But we have to understand that's what they are. They are the Nephilim, the remaining spirits of these evil, giant, monstrous things. Let me say this. Women that became pregnant with these things, this was not a normal pregnancy. They gave birth to monsters. That's basically what they were. They weren't the golly, jolly green giant. You know, they were evil, terrible things. They were cannibals. When they ate up everything, there's nothing left. They started eating us, and then they started eating each other. They were completely corrupt spiritually because they're not supposed to be here. They are outside the will and the grace of God. They don't belong here. They were they were the fallen angels thumbing their nose at God, saying, "Hey, we're going to make our own creation. We're going to be the gods that we want to be." And they do consider themselves gods, although they are not. I call them tenpenny gods. They want to be counterfeit gods. But they fooled ancient people into believing they were gods. They still had sex with women and have the demigods, as we call them. These were the Nephilim, too. And I think the influence of the Nephilim is still with us. As a matter of fact, as Jesus said in the Bible, as it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. The days of the Nephilim are coming back. And they're coming back through the old ancient bloodlines of this world. They're coming back through the things that they have given us, like AI and all that. And I can tell you this without a doubt, AI is already demonically compromised.
Yeah.
Everything that man makes, the demonic compromises.
Yeah.
And, everything that, it's just like everything the government gets a hold of, and I have had my run-in with the government, everything they get a hold of, they weaponize it. And I guarantee you without a doubt, they know that dogmen and Bigfoot and other things like werewolves and vampires are real, and they have already weaponized these things. I was contacted years ago by the CIA, and this is the real deal. It wasn't a joke, okay? And the guy, all he wanted to do was ask me, he must have asked me 100 questions on nothing but demonology. And at the end of the interview, I had to say, why do you need to know this? Why do you need to know these things? And I didn't ask it because they suddenly occurred to me. They're already into this. They're raising demons. They're contacting demons. They're doing some bad stuff here. And he said something very interesting at the end of the interview. He said, "How would you like to come work for us?" and he said, "We're looking for people with supernatural talents."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, that's okay. I'm working on a book. I don't have time to do it." I was definitely not going to join the CIA because their retirement plan comes through the morgue most of the time. Okay. But
Exactly.
I had to wonder, who have you got working for you? You got demons, witches, warlocks working for you here? What's going on?
Yeah. What do you think, Bruce? Similar with CIA, FBI, stuff like that, and Nephilim? You think they're in on it? I guess the government is always in on everything.
Well, the government knows about all the aliens and the cryptids and stuff. The Bible tells us everything we need to know about Nephilim. Now, all the Nephilim wasn't destroyed during the flood of Noah. Some were left, and that's where we come into free will and free agency. It's up to us to discern these things. We get into the cryptids. Yes, there could be some of them supernatural. Most of them are flesh and blood. The government, as far as CIA and stuff like that, eliminating former CIA, there could be some cases, but that would be very rare. They're just not.
They're not. The beings before the flood, we call Nephilim, After the flood, they had another name called Rephaim, and they were not quite as big as the giants were as before the flood. And we think they probably came through the flood through the blood of one of Noah's daughter-in-laws, probably the bloodline to that. But and I agree with you. They are still in this world genetically. They are some of the Nephilim are in our DNA. Some of them are in the cursed bloodlines of this world, like the Bilderbergs and some of these other old families. They're connected to these things, and definitely they are still with us, and they're coming. They're going to make a comeback. Here's one other thing we got to think about, though, when you think about the Nephilim and all that, guys, and that is this: they not only were fooling around with human women, they were fooling around with animals too. That's where your cryptids come from.
Hybrids.
Hybrids, yeah. Scary hybrids.
Like you
The other
said,
day,
when Noah was starting to build the ark, his boys and wife were pure like Noah. They were pure blood. But Noah's sons took wives, and they weren't pure. So, like you said, I believe that's where the Nephilims come after the flood. Some might have survived, but the bloodline continued with Noah's daughter-in-law.
Well,
Yeah.
it tells about Noah's family, but his daughters. It doesn't say a whole lot about his daughter-in-law. So that's one speculation is. According to what the Bible mostly says, nothing should have survived that flood. But yeah, I can't say that for sure. I wasn't there, but you've got a lot of speculation on that. And there's another school of thought that there might have been what we call a second incursion after the flood. There may have been more fallen angels that did what they did with human women and had more of them. The Rephaim were never as big as the actual first Nephilim. So you might as well say they got watered down to a certain degree after the flood. And then you had, Goliath and his brothers. You had Og, the king, and he was like, he had a bed that was 13 foot long and 6 foot wide. But they were never. But according to some of, like the Book of Enoch, and you got to be careful about the Book of Enoch because some of it is not really on score of what the Bible truly says. I mean, like one instance where the Book of Enoch says the ark was built by angels, and the Bible does not say that. It literally says Noah and his son built the ark, and God helped them, but I don't think he had angels. But anyway, the thing about that, the angels described in the Book of Enoch were like 30 and 40 foot tall.
Wow.
A lot bigger than the ones after the flood.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jeez. It's funny. I heard the other day, I was listening to something on AI, and it just occurred to me when we were talking about it was with AI, it can either be real or it can be fake. So your mind can think, oh, okay, well, that's real and have it be demonic, but it's covered up and you would never notice. So you could like a picture that is basically something hidden within inside AI. So you can't trust one way or the other, whether they're, good or bad, real or not. So it's got a lot of crazy things to it, but yeah.
I've actually known video games to have demons in them, to be demon infested type things. That's like that old saying, ghost in the machine. They can really mess with our technology when they want to. But I guarantee you without a doubt, right now, the thing about AI, there's a bunch of little AIs in this world. They're over their own little bureaucracies, What happens when the day comes when they all combine together and become one AI? They will become a force to reckon with then. And I don't think, to a certain extent, it's not like the Terminator movie. They're going to build a race of robots and take over. That may be part of it. But right now, there are people, and I did a show on this not long ago, that they're talking about actually people being able to download their consciousness into clones or robots and live forever. Think about that. That is something walking this earth that has no soul.
Yeah.
And let me tell you this, and I've encountered a few things like that. Whenever you meet something that doesn't have a soul, you're dealing with a different animal altogether. You're dealing with true darkness. Okay. And there are people out there, and I've said this before, and I stand by it. There are things out there walking around that look like people, but are not people. There are people out there walking around that used to be people and are no longer people anymore. That's what you're going to encounter. And, you know, there's an old saying. I talked about this the other day. You can walk down the street of the city and brush shoulders with somebody. You may look into the face of a murderer. I've done that. Or you may look into the face of an angel. You never know what you're going to meet out there, but it's out there.
What's your thoughts, Bruce, with AI?
Well, AI is a good thing, but it was used by bad people for bad things. That's what I truly believe in it. It was designed to be a good thing. It was designed to get everything in order that we need to get in order without relying on so many money grubbing. Well, I really don't want to get into politics, but politicians.
I was thinking the same thing, though, Bruce.
Some of them politicians are not real anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you have a handful of people that can make the decision for the rest of the world, AI is a sweetheart compared to that mess. That's for sure.
Wow.
I believe too, my friend, that AI will be definitely the image of the beast, the Antichrist the Bible talks about. I believe that's going to be part of it.
I believe AI is going to open our eyes up to what's evil in this world and make us a lot smarter to deal with it and how to get rid of it. AI takes away Putin takes away North Korean ways. It's given us all the education we need. Now, that's not to say that somebody won't use it in a bad way, because we all know there's good people and there's bad people. There's people with good intentions, people with bad intentions. But AI, let's say in the cryptid world, AI is used to try to fool the majority of the people. Well, AI will fool people who's never seen one. But as time goes by, AI will also help those people understand what they're seeing and what they're not seeing. You can use AI to AI a picture and tell if it's real or not. Our biggest problems in this world is we listen to a handful of people and we follow like sheep. And that gets us in trouble.
Another aspect of witchcraft and sorcery, which is very rampant in this world. It has risen more now in this day and age, more than has ever been on this planet. And the main focus of witchcraft and sorcery is actually manipulating reality. And when you screw with people's reality, and like I say, with AI, we don't even know what's real and what's not real anymore. But this is exactly what the darkness wants. And this is part of their system. And like I said about the Antichrist, he's not just a man, he's not just the son of Satan, he is also a system. And the system that's going to come up in this world is going to be fueled by things like AI, amongst other things. AI is a wonderful thing to help people hear and see and walk. They can't do that. That's wonderful. But you know what happens? We never take the good thing and do a good thing with it. We usually do bad things with it. Oh, that's what. But now look at nuclear energy. You know, once upon a time they said, you know, it's going to fuel every home. We're going to have a wonderful society with it. And look where it's at today. Yeah. So, I mean, you know, we always seem to drop the ball because we are imperfect. We are not, spiritually, we are imperfect. And whatever we create will never be perfect.
Well, that's just a handful of corporations overthrowing the rest of the world, making us follow them like sheep. I don't think that has anything to do with AI. AI is showing us what is and what ain't. If we go out here and we get into these demons and stuff like that, and we bring it up on ourselves, that's called discernment. That's free will. That's where I draw the line when it comes to you take the corporations who have mineral rights, have crude oil rights, have tree rights, have land rights, and most of it's called, I shouldn't even call the name of the companies being controlled, it's called BlackRock. BlackRock controls everything.
Yeah.
And without AI,
I guarantee you, fallen angels and stuff like that sit on the boards of these corporations. They're running things from the background. I guarantee you, without a doubt, that's what's going on. That's the system. And here's the bad thing about it: the system. We are slaves to it. We are born in the chains of slavery, whether we can see them or not. They're still there. And that slavery is the system. You're born into it, you die in it, But what's going to happen is they're going to use this system for their own advantage. They always do. They've been doing this since time immemorial. They're going to, it's going to be in the future even worse because it's the game, the God game that they're playing is the game of control and power. Those are the two most addictive things on this planet.
Yeah, I have a guy that I'm going to have on.
I've got a hold on just a minute. I'm getting emergency alert here.
Oh, okay.
We just got a severe thunderstorm warning with flood warning coming in. So let me remove it from my screen here.
You guys have already had that too out there, right? Flooding by you?
Yeah. It's been pretty much every day for the last 2 weeks, but it's got real bad today again.
Well, yeah, if you need to go, Bruce, anytime, brother. No problem.
I'm on high ground. I might, get out here. If somebody sees somebody floating down the street, I might throw them a lifeline. But,
there you go.
Yeah. Not to be funny, but, just being serious.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And you're emergency worker too, so yeah.
Well, I'm retired now, so, but I still get out here and help.
Yeah, I would too. Definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. A guy that I know, I'm gonna have him on. A couple of guys. I'm not gonna say his name, but he worked for BlackRock, and yeah, they do some crazy stuff. I mean, I can't believe it. Especially Dennis. What do you think of the weather manipulation? What do you think that goes to? Do you think that happens?
They used to talk about that back in World War II. As a matter of fact, they said we can control the weather. I think they decided to try that. And definitely, I believe a lot of that's going on today. Like I said, I've had people tell me the rain doesn't look right on the windshield anymore. It looks kind of oily looking, it doesn't run off the windshield like it did. I had an interesting encounter with some weird fog last winter. You got a lot of stuff. I had a friend, he had a show called Fishing in Alaska, and he actually went to one of the HARP installations up there.
That's right.
And he said he was feeling fine. He walked up the road to it and got feeling worse and worse. And he left. And as soon as he left, he got on back down the road, he got to feeling all right. And he said whatever was going on with HARP was not just seeding clouds or, doing this exhaust stuff and all that, the jet looking exhaust. But he said he thinks there was also some kind of infrasound thing going on with it as well. You got to wonder, I did a show the other night called the Medusa Project. And this is supposed to be a real project that they now are able to open your mind like a book and use it. And use even, like some of these things in witchcraft go against your mind in certain ways. They can use weapons. they say that they can possibly go using infrasound, which is a microwave, which is very much like a microwave oven in your kitchen. This microwave can actually change the chemical composition in your brain and give you an aneurysm. They can kill you from long distance and make it look like a natural death.
You know, it's funny you say that because
they call it the Medusa Project. The reason they call it Medusa Project because she was able to turn people into stone by just looking at them, and so that's why they named this project that way, that you can do somebody from a long distance. And they say this stuff is real. I mean, even Trump talked about that. He said when we went in Venezuela, we used a weapon on them, and they were falling on their knees, holding their heads. They couldn't take it. What were they using? They were using Medusa, supposedly. And if they can do this from a long distance and make it look like normal death, that's a perfect tool for assassination. That the CIA would definitely love that.
Yeah,
and of course the Russians supposedly started this. The Russians supposedly tried this out on us back in the 80s and 90s in Cuba. Some of the diplomats we had down there, they would start to affect them with dizziness and ringing in the ears and all that stuff, and weird stuff.
Crazy.
They definitely have what I call long range weapons.
Oh yeah,
they can.
Yeah.
And here's another thing: they're experimenting with actually going into your dreams and manipulating your mind through your dreams. That sounds very much like what I mentioned, at the beginning of the show, the what we call dream witches or spirit witches. They are the witches that other witches are scared of because they have the darkest of dark power. They are able to project their spirits into your dreams or into other animals. Think about this. You could put your spirit in a dog man or a Bigfoot or anything like that, or any animal for that matter, a wolf or bear, whatever you wanted to do, that would be your puppet. Or what? And take it one step further. What if you could possess people and have them commit murder?
Yeah.
These witches have intense dark power. They have the ultimate demonic power. That's why other witches are scared of them. They don't mess with them. These spirit witches can attack you in your dream.
I have heard of that one. Yeah,
that's freaky.
Well,
like I mentioned earlier, AI will supposedly will enable people to actually download their consciousness into a robot that looks just like you. And when the parts wear out, you get more parts. You will live forever. You will be a god to a certain extent.
Yeah.
That's what they're after. I call it the God game. That's the game they're playing. They want to be gods.
Not even close. Yeah. Scott Carpenter? I'm sure you guys know who he is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what kind of bugged me. That's an aneurysm is what killed him or unalived him. Either or. But when that happened, because of all the pushback he was getting from the government, and when that happened, I was going, that didn't sound. That sounds like something's been manipulating him or whatnot, because I'm sure the government was not happy with him at all because of the DNA studies he had done and all these different things that he had seen and gone to. Yeah, I mean, that's scary enough. But
it used to be the number one weapon of the CIA was what we call protracted suicide. They make it look like you killed yourself,
Yeah.
Yeah. But now they don't have to worry about that. They can do it this way. And there are poisons. There was a matter of fact that thing about Lindsey Graham the other day, and whether that's true or not. It was kind of strange coincidence how that turned out, but we do know without doubt the Russians have a poison they put on a doorknob that will kill you within 12 hours after you touch it, just with your hand. And let me tell you this: a lot of people don't know this. witchcraft is big into drugs. Okay, it's big into plants and stuff like that. Do you know one of the most deadliest poisons you can run into is an angel flower plant? You see these angel plant flowers, yeah, they don't even get the juice of those things on your hands. They will
Oh,
give you terrible hallucinations. They can stop your heart.
yeah. Yeah, no, I've heard of a
They're
couple things
dangerous.
that do that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Digoxin was
Well,
used back.
you know where they hybrid those things? You know where they come from? They come from the actual peyote plants.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jeez.
The old
Yeah.
people, the old farmers in Tennessee and South Carolina, they used to call them ghost plants. They grew out in the fields, and they would go out in the fields because if the cows ate them, it would kill them, you know. So they would go out in the fields looking for these ghost plants, as they call them. That was one name they had them. They called peyote or Jimson weed. They would look at these and root them up with a hose so the cows wouldn't eat them and kill themselves. That's poison stuff, man. And it's kin to the belladonna and the nightshade family. By the way, the potato you eat kin to the nightshade. You can eat the potato, but you better not eat the flower. It will kill you.
Jeez. That's scary. Have you ever heard of that, Bruce?
Yes. Yeah, the Jensen weed, it comes with a pod on it. You open that pod up, it's got a milky substance in it. It's compared to a strong hallucinogenic drug. Too much of it send you to the ER. We had McGavick High School here in Nashville a few years ago that 2/3 of the senior class had to be rushed to the hospital because the Jensen weed was growing against the fence row. And somebody figured out, hey, if we cut the bulb open and get the milky white substance out of it, we can all get high. But the rule of thumb through life is if you come up on anything in the wild that has a milky white substance to it, stay away from it.
Exactly.
The
DMT.
indigenous peoples used them a lot in ceremonies. Of course, they knew how to derive them, you know, keep them
Right.
from being. But yeah, there's a long history of that. But witchcraft is deep into that stuff, using these plants and all that for hallucinogenic purposes and all that. You know, that's where you get your original zombies. Zombies are real. Most of the time, they're not really dead. There are people put under the influence of certain drugs to make them look like they're dead. And the Bokor or the witch doctor would come back and, you know, administer more drugs to them, bring them back to a half state and use them as free slave labor. They never really died. They just looked like it. Now, there are supposedly real zombies, which is very much like the vampires I talked about. They are reanimated corpses, reanimated by demonic spirits. We call that the demonic reanimated dead. That's what they are. And but the zombies do not eat you. That's cool. That's a whole different. That's Hollywood. The real zombies don't go around eating people.
Yeah.
They work out in the sugarcane fields for free.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, or there's a new zombie drug out. It's scary. I heard Jessica Cryptid Hunter was talking about it the other night, and I looked it up, and my wife is a veterinarian, so she did horses, and then she did, small animals and even exotics. And there's this drug that they use. It's like a tranquilizer, and people take it or shoot it up or whatever it is, and they'll stand there, and their whole back will turn like this, and they're just a zombie. They just sit there and they're staring and moving. So that, now that you had said with the zombies and the religion and the drugs being used in
a lot of drug addicts break into vet offices to steal that drug.
Yeah, there's a couple of drugs out there that are not.
You get into ketamine. Anything that's mixed with ketamine, that's the cheapest. The cheapest
another
salt
thing.
is
Another thing. I don't know if you're
veterinarians.
familiar with the screw worm. Does something similar to that. You ingest it in meat, it will go to your brain and drill holes in your brain. And eventually, does that to you too to a certain extent.
That's that. What the deers have? I can't think what it's called.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a
They call
yeah,
it
like
the deer wasting disease. Yeah.
there you go. That's what I was looking for. Yeah. Jeez. Let's see. I guess Robin's got a question for you here. Bruce, did you
Yeah.
say that was a high school in Nashville?
Yes, right there off of Bradley Parkway, called McGavick High School. If you'll look it up, it was about around the late '80s, early '90s.
Jeez, wow. That's crazy. And let's see. I've got another one here. Dave Plotty said that days before Scott's passing, they were in familiar woods, but first time to experience strong radiation readings there. And that was my next question. The subtly venomous snake struck and almost got Scott. That's kind of what I thought. He was pretty young to pass away from an aneurysm, especially if it's not in your. It's normally in a family trait, some sort of. Your grandmother had an aneurysm and passed, and it's very family. I don't know how to say it. Family.
You have the peripheral arterial disease. It's called PAD, I think for short. You are prone to these blood clots and stuff like that.
Yeah. I just think that, and I've talked to Daryl and Martin about it too, that I'm wondering why, after you are seeing these cryptids, that you get sick, you get cancer or you get something. And I thought, I wonder if you were to take a Geiger counter and put it down on the ground where one of them would have stood or something like that. And I saw something about it the other day, and radiation comes out of cryptids. It's really weird.
Well,
Have you heard that?
My good friend Linda Godfrey had that experience after, I think she was, and I went looking for a lizard man in the swamps of Bishopville. I took my Geiger counter with me, and I got some very strange readings out there in that swamp. They should not. There was more than background radiation. And I talked to somebody in the know down there in the government, and he told me something very interesting about those swamps. He said they dumped chemicals in those swamps for years. He said there could be anything living out there in that swamp.
Yeah. Wow. Like Chernobyl. What's crazy is on the Y files, they were talking about Chernobyl and how these wolves are prospering off of it. They're doing well. They've got the pups and the same thing with some of the things in the ocean. Well, all that stuff has learned to fight off.
Somebody asked that question: do the wolves in Chernobyl not only howl at night, do they glow too?
It wouldn't surprise me. Well, I'm surprised.
Well,
here's
something weird I heard about the other day that made me think about that. They have actually found blue tinted coyotes in California.
Really? I'll have to look.
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. Wow.
What's going on with that? That's weird.
What's that, Bruce?
The misgiving with radiation is that it's not the radiation you got to worry about. It's the radon gas. When you mix uranium and limestone, which is pretty prevalent in all places we find cryptids, it puts out a gas, and that gas is called radon. And radon can affect you health-wise in so many ways. A lot of people ask me about taking Geiger counters with them into cave systems or out researching cryptids. I tell them, no, don't do that. Take a radon detector. Don't take the Geiger counter. Take the radon detector.
Radon detectors instead. Wow.
Exactly. Chernobyl is a prime example. The animals adapted. There's nothing wrong with them. So you really can't say radiation done anything to them. But with uranium and limestone coming into contact, it melts down and causes a gas called radon. And the radon is what will get you.
That can happen naturally too, huh?
Well, that's how it does. It's naturally done. The uranium in the limestone rock touches and creates a mush. That mush turns around and releases a gas. That's the reason why it's good to have if you have a basement in your home. Especially if you live in places like Tennessee and places. The number one thing, even better than a smoke detector, is a radon detector.
Wow. Jeez. One question I had for you, Dennis, too, and for you guys too. What's your thoughts on remote viewing?
Well, I think humankind, I've studied ESP and all that, psychic power and all that over the years, for many, many years. I think we all have certain talents that we can be born with. And I think they're really, in my own personal view, gifts from God, and a makeup but it's I think, how you use it and for what purposes you use it that you need to be very careful with. But the government knows about these things as well. And I've talked to, especially remote viewers of clairvoyance and people who are into this stuff. You got to be very careful because I guarantee you without a doubt, they have assassins that have utilized this stuff, not just like with the Medusa project I was talking about earlier, but they have psychics that can do certain things to you as well. And they even have these psychics to guard certain government projects. I've had a lot of friends over the years who are, remote viewers and stuff that say, I would try to look into something and I'd hit a barrier. I'd hit a rail, I couldn't go any further. Well, there's a reason for that. They do have people employed, like I mentioned earlier. They've got people employed to do these things, so that's not that far fetched. But it's a talent like anything else. You can use it for bad, or you can use it for good. And I think you will pay a price for each way. Here's the thing about it, there's sort of a spiritual law, and I've known witches to talk about this. If you cast a spell or curse, there's a spiritual law says you're going to get 10% of that back no matter what. That's the payment for the darkness. And of course, if you get the whole thing sent back to you, you get the whole thing back. But
Yeah.
but you're going to pay a price for 10%, and that goes with what you do good and what you do evil. When you put out positive, you don't usually most of the time get positive back. But when you put out negative, what do you think you're going to get back? You're going to get negative. So, if you got a talent, whatever that talent may be, and if God gave you that talent, you will have to give an account for it one day, sooner or later, what you did with it.
Bruce, what's your thought on remote viewing?
If it's a remote viewing if you do it the military style of the way the military does it, I'm 150% for remote viewing. It saved my hide more than once, that's for sure.
Yeah, really. Can you talk about that, Bruce, of how it saved you?
By using, there's some people out here that in the public that were trained with military remote viewing. And then, of course, you've got people in the military that are trained in that. It's a highly respected. It is top secret to an extent. Some things I can talk about. I'll tell you, airstrikes. Remote viewers can tell by drawing it out what they're seeing, what they're remote viewing on a piece of paper, and then that'll give.
It reminds me of that movie. You remember that movie, The Men that Carried Goats?
No, I don't think I've seen that.
Oh,
that was a secret government project when they first started out trying to use remote viewing and all that. Yeah,
I saw that the other day, and it's George Clooney. Something.
Yeah, George Clooney.
Goats or something like that. That's pretty crazy, but it makes sense.
Remote viewing will tell us exactly where Iran's hiding the radioactive materials. It'll tell us what China's doing. It can also save individuals such as President Trump, other people in the world that are very important, scientists especially. You want to save your scientists. And remote viewers through the military training draw these out on a piece of paper, and then they go over that until they figure out exactly what it is. It might be a box, it might be an ocean. They know how to read that stuff. And I believe it 150%. I was remote viewed, and it saved my life. 2 more steps and I wouldn't been on this earth.
Ooh, that's scary. And then Bruce, we got one for you here. Oh, it's not a question. Thank you, Bruce. I'm in the greater Nashville area myself and didn't remember anything recent. Late 80s, early 90s sounds kind of familiar. Yeah, that does sound kind of familiar, especially those dates for some reason. So.
I think it was like 84 to 86 is when that incident happened.
Oh, okay. 84 to 86. Wow. Jeez. And then one other question for for all three of you. What's your thought on UFOs and Bigfoot? Is there a connection, you think? Dennis?
Well, I think that I've had my own UFO sighting. I actually saw a triangular craft. It was about the size of a football field. Very quiet. But I've seen everything that flies, and everything that flies makes a sound. This had absolutely no sound at all to it. But it passed over my head close enough for me. I could have hit it with a rock. And it has sort of a purplish like glow to it. And this happened so quick. I had a phone in my pocket and didn't even think about trying to take a picture of it. It was so quick. But when I saw that, I've had a lot of people ask me over the years, what do you think that was? I don't really know. I mean, I really can't say. If we got something like that, we could take over the world tomorrow, no problem at all. I just felt like it was military, but whose military or what military it was, I don't know.
Yeah,
but
good point.
There's some very, I used to be under the opinion that 90% of what everybody saw could be explained, where it was misidentification of some sort, until I ran into the other 5% that time, and that changed my view on that. I don't know what that was or where it comes from. I'll tell you what happened after that. I talk about it in my book, The Road Unseen. Things got weird after that. I almost like I was living in the Mothman prophecies. Remember that movie, The Mothman Prophecies? I felt like I was living there. I mean, my mail was open. I had some of the weirdest phone calls. People were getting in my yard. Weird. I was having government vans, SUVs buzz my house. I had helicopters come over. Weird crap. And I thought, and the reason was that after this incident, I actually turned it in to MUFON here in this state. I turned it into my report. I saw this and all that. Well, they never got back to me. I wondered why they never, got back to me. Years later, I met the guy that was over that, and, he checked on it. He said, we never got your report.
Government did, I'm sure, though. Jeez. What do you think, Bruce? Do you think there's any connection between the UFOs and Bigfoot or cryptids in general, I guess?
Oh yeah, anything that's ancient like that, one ancient to another ancient, yep. There's connections, definitely.
Wow.
We have millions and millions and millions of pieces of evidence. I don't know why everybody's still looking for evidence, because we have plenty of it. So it's there. We just got to open our eyes. So you've got ancient aliens back to the Mayans. They think the Mayan statues are sacrificial. If you dig deeper into it and talk to Mayan elders, they will tell you there were landing platforms for spaceship, for stars that come from the sky that carried people. So when you get into ancient cryptids, they would all have to know about each other. There's no other way around it, because you can't have 20,000 years ago, you can't have one thing that was in China end up here in Tennessee or California or anywhere else on a trade route. So they all knew about each other, just back and forth. So yeah, I believe it.
What do you think, Larry? Bigfoot and UFOs. Think there's that connection?
There's some kind of connection there. Whether they're allies or something like that, I wouldn't know. But yeah, I definitely believe there's some kind of connection there. Because a lot of times when you see one, the other one isn't far off.
Yeah.
Or they're linked together a lot in encounter.
Yeah. Ronnie's got a book coming out on it too. So interesting.
Something to think about. I did a show on this not long ago about the legend of the white gods. All over the world, even in China, places as far removed as China to South America to the North American. Um, all over the world, you have these legends of these white gods that most of the time they say they come from the sea, but they are extraordinary looking. They are actually white people, sort of like the Nordics you hear about, the Nordic type aliens that you hear about them encounter. They have blonde hair and blue eyes. They're white, and they say they almost have a glow to them. They're so white. Their eyes glow too, supposedly. And the people, they'll give you a quick example. When the Spanish first encountered, I think it was the Incas, the king come out and said, "Welcome back," you know. And I think it was Cortez said, "What do you mean, welcome back? We've never been here before." And they said, "Yes, you have. You left. You know, we have legends about you, the white gods. You left. You said you were coming back one day." You know.
Hope
And
that's
you got
not
to wonder what that
misrepresented.
connection is. Yeah, the connection is. I mean, you got this legend all over the world in every culture almost. I mean, you got the Chumas Indians in California talk about it. You got the people in the Caucasus Mountains and India and all that in places. What's going on with that? And, you know, I think there's also a connection to these white gods with Atlantis itself. Atlantis may have been some kind of, you know, what can I say? Some kind of base of some sort, you know?
Base.
You gotta wonder. You gotta wonder about that.
Yeah. Jeez. There was one question I was going to ask you. Remote viewing. Drugs and religion, zombie drug. You said glowing coyotes in California? Did you happen to know where at in California?
I don't really. I think there's one place. I think it was like outside of Los Angeles, but exactly where at I don't know. And but I heard that there was speculation if they got a hold of some kind of chemical that did this, or if it's some kind of natural thing taking place. But they don't. They're not, you know, like a blue. But they sort of have a blue tint like to their fur. And they've never seen this on any other coyotes, but there were more than just one or two. Supposedly, there were packs of them seen like that. And but it was out, sort of more out in the outlying areas outside of Los Angeles. Although coyotes have come into actual parts of Los Angeles, they're very big on scavenging. That's really weird. I had to wonder about that. If they get it, you know, is it some kind of a government? And there are several stories like these so-called government experiments that get out of hand, supposedly, and get out there. You got to wonder. There's another famous one. I don't know if you ever heard about the rebobs of California. And this takes place supposedly in Napa Valley. And there's a story about these. And what rebobs are basically are flying monkeys, monkeys with wings. Okay, like the Blue Wizard of Oz. Okay, and they say they attack people from the trees and all that. And they call them the rebobs. And they're supposed to be a government experiment that got loose, lab monkeys that got loose. And but now whether this is true or not, I mean, you know, it could just be a story and a legend about that. But that's interesting. But somewhere in time, I've got a bad feeling that there, you know, all this. You know, my favorite quote is this: Herbert Spencer said, "Every myth and legend known to mankind is not without its authentic foundation." Somewhere, somehow or another, I think a government experiment got loose. What it was, I don't know, but you got to wonder about that, especially when it comes to cryptids and stuff. Like I said, like we said earlier, the government definitely knows they exist and they're out there. And I mean, when I ran into Bigfoot, and believe me, I was close enough to pull the guy's hair. I was very close. He is real. I know that without a fact. He is out there, and you know, and here's the interesting thing. Whenever you have that kind of experience, one question will come home to haunt you for the rest of your days. If this is real, what else is out there?
What else is out there? Yeah, totally agree. It's kind of scary. I mean, especially all of this stuff happening so soon. Dennis, what's your thoughts on the veil? Is it gone?
I've
Is it
been
thinning?
I've been to the Vale. I almost died about this. Been about 5 years ago. I actually saw the angel of death, and it happened after an incident I had with some men in black. And I had a mysterious illness that almost killed me. Put me in the hospital for 3 days. And I was lying there dying in my house there in the room behind me. I actually saw the angel of death. And I'm going to tell you this: whenever you get close to the veil itself, it will affect you in many different ways, and it does things to you that you know very out of the ordinary. But the veil itself, I feel without a doubt, the more we talk about it, the more we think about these things, the more we discuss these things, the more we empower them. I know demons operate that way, definitely. You don't want to give them attention, you don't want to give them time and effort because that will empower them. I tell people, I have a paranormal consultation service. I have counseled people for years all over the world with demonical problems. And I tell them the key to demons, and I know this sounds ridiculous, but it works, is that if you ignore them, you take the power away from them. Don't empower them. If you give them your time and attention, this will only strengthen them. They want to
Like
form that
Skinwalker.
connection. Yeah, they want to form that rapport with you so they can get in and do what they want to do. And I've talked about, a lot of people in my other book I wrote, Beyond the Shadows, I put a list in there about the certain demonical signs if you can be possessed with them. And there are definitely low key levels of possession thing going on here, or influence, if you want to call them that, whatever. And if you are usually worried about being demon possessed, you're probably not. Okay, that's usually the way that works. But it is interesting. If you have power over them. Just don't give them the power. We had the saying back in the law enforcement days. It's bad enough when somebody shoots you. It's even worse when you gave them the bullets. And that's what
Yeah.
goes with the demon. You did take that power
Yeah.
away from them. So but to me, I had a lot of people ask me over the years, I walk, Dr. Carroll, I got this sign or I got that sign and my demon possessed, I said, it doesn't happen that way. You're not just walking down the street and boom, all of a sudden you get possessed. You have to open the doorways. You open the
Yeah.
doorways to that, then you're going to have a problem. And one of the doorways, by the way, to possession is obsession. They get you with obsession every time, and addiction, and so on and so on. These are doorways. If you're not careful with, and you got to guard the doorways of your life, you will have a demon problem sooner or later. One way or the other, you have an attachment or something. And I've gotten to the point, guys, where I don't even want to do my podcast anymore without doing a prayer of protection at the beginning and end of it, because I've had so much interference. I've had demons actually come on telephones and talk to me.
Yes.
And I had a thing one time where a woman I was talking to this woman. She was telling me weird things going on in her apartment. She had a little baby. She was scared to death. And all of a sudden, she just kind of faded out, and this voice come over the line. I can't describe how it sounded. It did not sound human at all. And it said, "This place is mine."
Yeah.
And I said, "No, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus. Get off this phone,"
Yeah.
And it cleared up. And the woman said, "What did you say?" I said, "Did you hear anything?" She said, "No, I heard a lot of static on." I said, "Never mind." I didn't want to freak her out. I said, "Never mind. It's just phone interference." They can interfere with our technology. I've seen them do it many times. We have to be very careful with the doors we open in our lives against these things.
Yeah.
And that includes looking. I'm going to tell you what, and I warn people, the more you look into the paranormal, the more chance you got of it looking back at you.
That's why
and that's the price you pay.
Yeah.
As researchers, and you all know this well, as researchers, we pay that price.
Yeah. Yeah. In order to warn others about it. Bruce, what's your thoughts on the veil?
The veil is thin in spots and thicker in others. It's just according to what you get into.
It's crazy. Larry, what's your thoughts on the veil? You think it's there, or you think it's completely gone?
I'm like Bruce. I think it depends on what kind of field that you're in, really. With the supernatural natural. I believe it's thinner.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
And
In fact,
with the
that's
critter,
why.
with demons, it's just a whole nother outlet. Like Dennis said, you don't want to go there.
And there's more and more with addiction and all these, pornography, all this stuff. That is becoming more of the problem scene, and it's kind of like getting that grasp. Devil's got the grasp on you, and just poking holes wherever it wants to manipulate you. So I've got one here. Nothing modern about UFOs, just because it's nuts and bolts. I heard the saying goes, fallen angel tech, Nephilim architecture. What you think, Dennis? Does that sound right?
I think definitely UFOs. You got to look at the UFO thing. It's more of a celestial mechanic in some ways, I think. And I think this is the technology falling. You remember this about fallen angels. They are the original aliens. They don't belong here. You and I, all of us, we're people of Earth. We belong here. We're made of the Earth. Mother Earth and all that. But they don't belong here. They are the true aliens. And they may, I've studied angels for a long time. And they are more fascinating subject than demons, by the way. And they are many different types of angels. Some of them do not look human at all. They definitely look alien. And if these were bad angels that we were dealing with, they wanted to give us certain technology so that we would hang ourselves on it. That's what it was all about. And it was all about control and power over us as well. And these UFOs, as you see, these tic-tac looking UFOs and all these other things you hear about now, the UAPs they talk about now more than anything, definitely seem to be more of a spiritual apparatus than a mechanical apparatus in some aspects. I think without a doubt, this is leading up to a great delusion the Bible talked about that's coming. In the last days, these things, all of this is going to be laid out as a plan. That's like I said at the beginning of the program. These guys have a plan for us, and it's not a good plan. And it is being worked on daily, and it's becoming increasingly more powerful as time goes on, because their time is running out, and they know this. But these vehicles that we see are not really interplanetary looking type vehicles. These are more planetary type. If you are any kind of an alien, whatever you may be, you're not going to get in a ship to go from point A to point B over untold years and miles and all that. The perfect way to travel is dimensional, and that's definitely what they're doing. But now some of these ships may be dimensional ships too, in that respect. But what dimensions are you dealing with? As a doctor of metaphysics, I know without a doubt that there is a spiritual and a physical dimension we have here, and maybe other dimensions in this world that we don't know about. But you can, and I've seen things cross from one dimension into another, and it can be done. And that is a big part of witchcraft, opening these doors to other dimensions, spiritual realms. That's a big thing with that. And I think some of these things may occur naturally, or they can be mechanically manipulated. So, you got that to look at too. So I think without doubt, and here's one more thought. What if they're not interplanetary vehicles? What if they are ultra terrestrial? In other words, they come from inside the Earth.
Yeah, I mean, I heard somebody say the other day that the crust of the world is fairly shallow, and what they taught us was not correct, and that interplanetary, or what do you call them, extraplanetary, that come from underneath caves or still hiding out here.
Interdimensional.
Yeah. That's where I had heard them come from. What do you think? What do you think, Bruce? You think that's another way they might be entering?
What was we talking about now? I had that thunder come through and I missed part of it.
Oh yeah, Bruce or Dennis, what was it that we were talking about? I forgot the main topic we were just talking about. Yeah, no, I can't remember, but the other thing I
I
meant to
think we're
ask.
talking about the UFOs in relation to the Nephilim and the fall.
Aliens, and now it might be dimensional instead of interdimensional.
Well, there's
They
several
might be
dimensions
coming
out
from
there.
here
Uh,
inside the earth.
Yeah,
well, that's a
that
possibility. That's a possibility. They could be coming from the sea. God said there was
The
many,
ocean.
many, many heavens out there. Naturally, He gave the earth to His Son. His Son paid the price for it. But yeah,
There is a part in the Bible that says, God created the heavens and the earth and the hosts of them.
exactly. So there's millions of heavens out there. So how
you
many
think that's
more of
something
us?
Go ahead, Bruce.
Oh no, go ahead. I was.
You think there's? Well, I can't be. I was going to say, does everybody have their own type of heaven? You think, or is that's just where we're all going,
Different
or
levels.
Well,
different levels?
if you want to get into the real depth of the Ethiopia Bible and get into it really strongly, you're already in heaven. When the
Yeah.
wrath comes, it'll be changed, and when
Yeah.
this is heaven for us, it goes back to what I said. God's only Son paid the price for this earth, so naturally God gave Him earth, and so this will always be a heaven. It may not be like we know it in time when the wrath comes, but it will eventually get better and better and better.
Wow. Well, I know we're coming up on 2 hours here. Dennis, I want to have you back on, but give us the dates and times of your podcast and the names of the books you've gotten or you've written.
Okay, come over to my channel and hang out whenever you get ready. It's Hunting the Shadows YouTube podcast channel and agency. I call it agency because I have a paranormal consulting service as well. But like I say, I have shows on Monday morning at 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Wednesday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Friday at 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Saturday at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can contact me if you want, got any questions or need help, anything, or whatever the situation. You can contact me at denniswcarroll.com. And my Gmail is denniswcarroll@gmail.com. Also, I have some books, several books available on Barnes & Noble and Amazon. Just look up the author, Dennis W. Carroll.
Awesome. Yeah, that's that's a lot of work you've done. That's pretty cool. Anyways, we'll let all of you go because I'm sure we've already lost Scott. I think he's
All right.
texting me with something. So
Yeah.
But anyways, Bruce, did you have anything else you wanted to say or ask?
No, I'm good. I hope everybody has a blessed night and take care of yourself.
Good to meet all of you.
Thank you.
You too. We're gonna have you on again, Dennis.
Have a great weekend, guys.
You got it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. We'll
all right, no problem.
Thanks, Bruce. Bye.
All right.
All right, Larry. There's Bruce.
Yeah, Bruce, still there.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
Hey,
You're all
how's it
stuck here.
going?
That's a pretty good show. Different.
Yeah,
we talk about all kinds of things.
I didn't say a whole lot. I mean, I didn't. Some things I agree with, some things I don't. So I just try to keep my mouth shut on some things.
No, that's what we want to hear.
That's what makes all of us unique and different.
Right.
If all of us had the same opinions and theories, this show would be boring as hell.
Oh yeah.
But
just one notification. Bruce, you and I are going to have the podcast, just the two of us asking questions. We're going to have people messaging us with questions that they want to ask you about. So we're going to do that. And I think we said one, right? On the 1st?
The 1st of August?
Yes, 1st at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, that'll work. Okay.
Excellent.
August the 1st at 1 o'clock, right?
Yes, sir. Yes,
All right.
sir.
Just shoot me a text so I don't forget it.
I was going to say the same thing to you. Shoot me a text.
Yeah, I may have
Anyways,
to. I
guys,
may.
go ahead.
I'll write it down.
I could write it down. I'll still forget it. I'll forget where I put the note.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
guys.
Yes.
Thank you very much, and another great Friday night. And
All right.
Bruce, everybody, thanks, Bruce. Have a good
Yep.
one, man.
Good weekend, Bruce.
Yeah,
You too, brother.
We got good show tonight. A lot of Mansing here saying, love listening to you gentlemen.
Yeah, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah.
I never got no storms here, but the internet kept on kicking off and on. That
Yeah.
storm's about 3 miles out from me, but close enough to the hub where it messed things up.
Yeah.
But I'll get
Yeah, let
off
me
here
close this
so
down
you
real
start
quick.
your weekend. Have a good weekend.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hope your back gets better.
It is. Thank God, because otherwise I'd lose my mind. I can't sit around anymore. All right, guys, we're going to close it down for tonight. Thank you very much for being here, and we'll see you again next Friday. Thanks. Bye. I don't even think it's going to do this.
Welcome to the Cryptid Wrangler podcast. We ask the questions others don't even consider.